Hi guys, welcome back to the Regal Gentleman YouTube channel, the Regal Gentleman Studio. Today we've got Jayden in the chair. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. So, what am I doing for you today?
So I was thinking of getting shorter sides, so maybe like some sort of fade or taper or whatever you think is best.
Okay.
And I wanted some sort of like messy fringe at the front and really heavily textured like mid part. And I've got a few pictures.
Yeah, show me. Okay, yeah, show me.
Yeah, I've got a few pictures.
Okay,
so something like that, but not too long on the top.
Okay.
So maybe something on the sides, but I'm not really sure of my hair if you'll be able to do that.
Okay.
And yeah, this sort of messy front.
Okay. Only problem is every haircut you show me there's got like wave and curl.
Yeah.
Yours are completely straight.
Yeah.
So it'd be very hard to achieve that kind of texture. All right. Yours will sit much heavier than that.
That's right. Something just inspired by this.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. Well, the kind of texture you're going to get is a more straighter texture. Okay. Yeah. We might be able to. It does move around a little bit. You know, when you start scrunching your fingers, it does move around a little bit. But the problem is, it's very undercut at the moment. So as soon as we start to remove some length, you're probably going to achieve more of a kind of slightly messy without the curl. You know, if you know what I mean. So you can still have a very heavily kind of textured haircut for sure. I don't think you'll get that kind of looser movement, especially in the second photo. The first photo always kind of come back a little bit. Is that you kind of want the hair to be able to fall back a little bit as well? Because
maybe not really. Though.
No, okay, because it would just kind of change the method of the cut. Because if you still want your fringe as well, your fringe could probably move back. To be honest, you probably could. To be fair,
just not down to my eyes.
Yeah, no, we can pick a length on that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think you do suit the fringe though. You definitely will suit the fringe. You've got a good face shape for you, very lean face already. So I think if we took this in a bit more, because as you can see that side's quite asymmetric at the moment. See that's where my fingers end. It's quite long on one side. So if we can balance that, but still, I think for you as well, I think for your face shape, I think if we cut it too tight inwards, I think it would make it look long. So I think if we left it with a bit more corner through here, it would actually sit quite nicely. But again, down to texture, as a technique, we can go to town on this because your hair texture, you can utilise so many different techniques. The only one you wouldn't do is anything that is cut too close to the root. Okay. So like what we call like channel cutting, you can basically pick it up and cut it. And quite sure the root wouldn't really work. But a lot of other techniques that we've got to offer really, we can do on yours. All right, cool. Back in sides, do you want to do a skin fade? Is that what you're looking for? Or?
I've never done a skin fade before.
Okay.
I'm not really sure because when my hair goes quite short, you can really see my scalp.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how short.
Do you not want to see scalp exposure? Would you prefer to stay away from scalp exposure?
I would like to see it if you. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to try anything.
Well, what you could do then? Why don't you do a taper instead? A taper's not as harsh, but you still get elements of scalp exposure in there. So say for example we were to do, because the back and sides aren't that long at all really. Yeah. It's really short when you look at it. That's probably only about a number. If you were talking clipper grade, it's probably like 6, which isn't that long. So if you were to pick a length that you like, what would it be? What would the number be?
The sides?
Yeah.
Probably like a 3, 2?
Yeah. All right. What about 2.5? Just to for argument's sake, yeah. All right, 2.5 then. Let's do 2.5 because if you can't decide between 2 and 3, just do 2.5. It's much easier. And then what we can do with the 2.5 being the predominant length all the way on the back and sides, why don't we just for a really good effect, just fade the sides out and the neck into nothing? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do that taper, that kind of temple fade. Yeah. And what I think it'll do, it won't be as harsh as what a skin fade would be because you'll just be seeing scalp exposure low down here and also on the neck. I just think it'd be a nice way of introducing you to some sort of fade in there as well. Yeah. Well, when I say fade, more like a skin fade in a sense. I just think that the balance of having that quite loose fringe as well, and I think it'll work really nicely to be honest. All right, should we give that a go?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right, let's get you started then, mate. Good choice, mate. Good choice.
It's like a TikTok inspired thing.
TikTok inspired. Okay. Right, guys. So to start on Jayden's hair, I'm going to cut the fringe in first. This is a very important part of the haircut, the fringe, because that's what's going to frame the whole shape of this haircut. The texturise and everything else, it's all very important. But for me right now, I want to get the sort of the length of the fringe in. That will dictate how short we go on the top. That will dictate the texturising we do, where we leave weight, where we leave length. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the fringe in. So I'm going to take a section we call a T section, which is from just before the crown. When I say just before the crown, it's in front of the crown towards the fringe. Okay, just taking the crown out of the way. Okay, it's only half a centimetre. Maybe even a bit more, but it's just to get that crown going. Jayden's crown is on the right hand side here. Because the way we're wearing it, not an issue. And the good thing is his last haircut wasn't too high, so we can get this really nice shape in there as well for him. So straight down the middle to separate. like so. There we go. And what we do is we cut the fringe in there. So, do you want it to sit just on the eyebrows?
Yeah.
If you look at Jayden's fringe, he's got a cracking hairline, right? Don't mind me asking, how old are you?
18.
18. That's a solid hairline, right? And I think the choice of haircut you're going for, it's age appropriate as well. Now I'm going to use the razor to create that function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it down and I pick a length that we want. Now remember, the hair is wet, so it will kick back when it's shorter. So we want to do it just past the eyebrows to create that length that is after. And just slide it on top, like so. Just break it down all the way. Right. So instantly you can see the finish on that is very jagged. Okay. If I was to use a scissor, I wouldn't get the same effect as quickly as well. And keep that fringe nice and full and working straight across. I'm not following the hairline, I'm working straight across. And do where we've cut already, I'm going to work down like so. I'm going to break this fringe up. Now this is a very heavily textured finish, remember. So I can get away with doing this right now. He's not looking to move it over, he's looking just to have pure texture that the hair will fall. Again, like if you look at the pictures we used, they're all, again, inspired by us. So don't use that word, because it is true. Everything's just a bit of inspiration, isn't it, you know? You might not be able to achieve the look completely, but as long as you're inspired by it, it gives me an understanding of what your mindset is about and what you're looking for as a finished result. So very heavily textured is what we're going for. So that is what we're going to give. So that even starting when I'm almost putting the primary shape and the secondary shape in at the same time for this haircut. So if you are seeing that I am also having the razor in now, I know we have done a razor cut on the channel, but I'm almost kind of adding the secondary shape in now. And just purely because this is a super visual haircut, right? This is heavily textured, this needs to be really visual. So I'm almost kind of killing two birds with one stone, really, and doing it at the same time. Now I'm going to do just one more section, like so. Straight across, just cut in the length. Using from behind, guides, you see just falling through now. And the good thing is, even if this is a little bit longer than what Jayden might want right now, at least at the very end, once we've cut it, we can decide about going shorter. So I'd rather do, maybe this might go a bit shorter, whether it'll dry high enough, I don't know, maybe. Never really know right now, but if not, we can always take it a bit shorter, but we can do that at the end, we can pick at the end. Jay might go, actually, do you know what, I like it, that works really well. Or he might go, do you know what, I'll go a lot shorter for me. That way we just come straight back to this technique, comb the hair out of the way and take it shorter. It's as simple as that. It's not going to take a whole new haircut to create. Now go close towards me, please. Thank you. So I'm going to utilise different tools for this to create the different types of texture I'm trying to create in this haircut. Alright. The razor. I'm going too close to the root. Remember at the start we said we're not doing anything close to the root. Just doing this towards the mid-length and towards the ends of the hair. So I'm going to do a profile dive now through the centre, as I want to maintain the corners. So I'm going to bring everything up, straight up and straight out, and that will keep the corner in. So then we can emphasise how big we make that corner with the product, or how close we make that corner to the scalp as well. So I'm going to start. I'm on the left hand side of Jayden, okay, and we'll work from the back to the front. I'm going to bring everything straight up, so make sure the head is nice and straight, and bring everything level, and that will leave this section here longer to sit on the fringe. So as you comb this down, there'll be length sitting over it, okay? So I'm going to take about that much off, all right? I'm going to do a really heavy point cut, like so. Scoop a little bit out, and this is where your guide is now. Take the section from that side there, comb it in from the side closest to you, and there's a guide, okay? Same again, as you get here, pick it up, try and get it as straight as you possibly can. Pick it up like so, and just leave that to sit forwards, like so. So we're creating movement through here now. There's these layers sitting be above the fringe, and there's obviously got the texture in the fringe as well. Okay. Now I'm going to use that as my guide. Okay. Everything's going to be coming straight up. Now I'm going to take a section just off centre and use the middle section we just took as the guide to this side here. Okay. Pulling everything straight up, like so. There's my guide. Okay, but I'm pulling everything back into the middle. Okay, what that's doing is over directing to leave length in the corner. There's my guide. Into the middle. There we go. You can pretty much see the finish of the scissor we've done on there as well. And there's the hair we need to cut off. That's straight up. Not much comes off. Just break it up. Through here. Quite low, just before the round of the head. We're going to use this section as our horizontal guide. Into the middle. As our guide. Right into the middle again. As our guide. Again, not much comes off. What we'll do now is cut in our guide the side. So essentially we're leaving the corner. So I want to pull in this bit in now. Pull this over. Connect it into that part of the guide there. Okay. So this is just about shape. So I'm just scooping this in, fringe out the way. I'm just connecting in this bit here. It doesn't really need to be there. We can create a much more defined finish without leaving just like running a bit of length on the temple there. Use this as our guide. So we've left that corner with length in, okay? But it's still length in. We'll do. Come all over. And then slide cutting like that. So we want a bit of a rough blend. Bring all that over. And this becomes our guide for the clipper work as well. Maybe look down here. So we'll level up to the fringe. So what we've done is this section here is the longest point through the top, okay? But just by doing loads of different section techniques, you can create texture through the top as well. So again, just off centre now, like so. Now remember from the previous haircut, when we just pointed out it's a lot longer, don't be alarmed if you see more length coming off. It was longer anyway. On this left hand side of the section. Bring that in. There we go. Just use this as our guide for our clipper work. Just really harsh point cutting. That's all that asymmetry and disconnection we had going on before. Just come off. Because we're not actually working through that corner on top, we're not moving the length. That will create that more round. Even just like that, you can see the rounded shape in it, which I want to accentuate because it'll really enhance the joint even more as well. Alright, but as you look at the top and you see how it's fallen really heavily textured already, you see all that movement sitting through there. And that is just through, again, just a sectioning technique. Working in a profile, bringing everything up to the centre and then just cutting in the base here. But as you see, you can see literally lines of texture, which doesn't look liney, if you know what I mean, but you can see where the individual cuts have been done. And the fringe is just sitting really, really rugged as well at the front, which I like. We always take the length up on the front, but essentially that's what we can do. Let's do some texturising techniques while the hair's wet. So let's really, really cut into this again. Staying away from the roots because I need this to sit flat, okay? Nice big sections, wide sections. From above halfway, I'm gonna slide really deeply into that to create a very, very jagged finish, okay? But it's at a length through the actual section itself. It's not too short to stand up. That's why I'm doing it just above halfway. Sliding through. Now I'm taking really big sections because I'm not. If I was taking small sections, you're removing a lot more length. You know, straight up, sliding right through. Do the same thing on this side here. Straight up, both fingers straight up, like that. Nice big section, very sporadic in section, like so. Above halfway. Like that is what I'm going to do while it's wet, okay? So what I'm going to do now is when I'm drying off, I'm actually going to use some texture salt spray on as I'm drying, because I want to see how this texture is coming about during the haircut. So I'm going to use some of the Balmain Texturizing Salt Spray. Spray it over the top like so. And then just before I finish, just run it from the crown with my fingers into the top, okay? Now, I'm going to try and see if I can create some bend in this using a brush, okay? So I'm going to dry it off first just with my fingers, and then I'm going to just wrap a brush around it just to see if I can create a bit more texture. So using a small round brush, I'm going to work it like this across the head. Just as I'm working towards the front, I'm twisting the brush, okay? So just from the crown, okay, coming out from the crown, because I want it to be natural. Do it medium speed and a high heat. And then just wrap it like this. Keep it pressed against the head. Move the hair dryer out so it doesn't burn too much. And just twist it around. Let's just create some waves, okay? Maybe 4 across the top, okay? Into the finish. Use our fingers. Now, cold air. Set in a bit more for me, so when I'm putting into the style, you see this haircut again, it's very bespoke there for Jayden. I want to put this into this style, okay? You can also, if you want to, you can also split that fringe out a little bit as well if you want to create a bit more of a different finish, which I think looks quite cool actually, to be honest. But you don't have to, it's up to you. You've just got priority to how you want to style it, right? Cool. 2.5. You're going to do the back and sides. I'm going to keep it quite low to maintain quite a little bit of length through here, and then we're going to taper the sides and down with the side bends and the neck. Works out quite well because we're working with Jayden's occipital bone as well, which protrudes quite a lot there at that point. So just using that as a guide actually works really well to keep that shape to disguise the protrusion. Then 2 guard on, leave it down, breaking up and off, like that. And then just put the 2.5 all over the bottom as well, like that. There you go. Cool. So I'm going to start the blend from the occipital bone. So from where I put the line in, okay? And you'll be pleased to know I have a white comb. All right, it's not my matador, but it still works. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to blend up into the length. More than starting and descending, I'm going to ascend the clipper over comb, okay? Spread it up and off. You see the hair coming through, there's a guide from the right. There we go. Press this slightly so you see the 2 coming through. It's not taking anything off, as soon as the hair comes through, you cut and you work up, and just keep going like so. Just work back over, just to check no little bits coming through. Put it down over the blend as well, like so. Put in, teeth angle away. Right line from the temple there, you don't need it. Into the fringe, so you've got a nice balance of the sides being quite short, but also has that fade into nothing on the taper. That'll be a really nice arch into there as well. Really accentuate the taper. Like so. There you go. So on the other side now, just replicating the left hand side. I'm going to start to put in the fade down, or the taper as we're calling it today. And then I'm just going to put the zero line to here. So now bearing in mind I'm using this arch level with the length of the fringe to create that nice sort of kind of blend down into, you see like a little line disappear into skin. Put that line in first. Make sure it's nice and even. Again, this is a good time to really step away from the work and make sure that line is symmetrical. Now, Jayden, is that fringe short enough for you? Would you like to take that shorter?
It's short enough.
Short enough, yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we've got the length on the fringe now. So that way we can match the arch at the temple. Still keeping some of that length through here, we left from before. So use that as a kind of guide into the taper. Working up here. I'm just going to taper in around the ears a little bit, just so it can go down to number 2. So you can expose the hairline. I'm going to put that nice curve around the earring now as well. The reason we put the line in now, so the detailing around the edges of the line, the out that I call it, is so we can see the symmetry of our taper and also where we know we need to take the taper up to. So we don't want to cut it too far into the hairline. We don't want to lose the nice looping around the ear, the temple. So by putting these in now, all that allows me to do is work with these as almost like guides for me as well. Cut this around, like so. And put into the side there to get that nice arch. Let's go down to skin area. It's fine. Like that. As we fade that out, it'll show it off really nicely. So let's do this to the side now as well. Move over the beard there. Start to detail the edges. Be careful of the eyebrow. One guard on. I'm going to work sort of right here. Okay, so very, very shallow level. So one guard on, leave it back, and just pull away. Okay, like that. Very short movements. Like so. Close guard. Just using the corner of the teeth. Just want to work that length in there. Again, I'm trying to preserve the length on the right hand side of the temple. Like so. I'm just going to use the corner now. Just take away the darker lines of patches. Open blade. Open off. Like so. One guard back on. Leave it down. Just flip up and down. Move the ear. Almost like in a sort of semi-circle manner. I'm just using this just to perfect the height. Put the ear back as well so we get a bit more space. Pull it off. What we can do, I'm going to clip her over comb in a minute to show that off. Now, same thing on the neck now. One guard on, leave her open. One get up and off. Just keep it dropping it below the occipital bone. Okay, so I'm not looking to create scalp exposure on this bit. looking for the harshness of the taper. That's my 0.5. Up and off. I'm just working through the lever now. Good. One guard back on, 1.5, and just refine with the lever. There we go. Into the one, close guard. Open blade, 0.5, lever back. Back onto my 1 guard. That's the 1.5. And just refine. Working up and off just before the occipital bone. Like so. Down to close guards, down to a 1. Pulling off a little bit lower down this time. Knocking off to the same height as the other side. Just working through the lever, get down to 0. 1 guard back on. And this is where you can use the lever to refine. Onto my trimmers again, and my 1 comb. I'm going to perfect the taper on the sideburns. Just using my comb, up and off to make sure we get rid of any darker areas so it looks really nice and blended down. Might build that little bottom line as well if you need to. The edging and the detailing. Finally, we'll work on the crown, just connect all this in through here. All this heavy weight that we left from the T-section and also from where the blender was, just match up to where the sides connect in, like so. Just going to take a little bit off, not too much. I'm just taking a little point off, just straight up in the air. It's just very sporadically here. Just want to point cuts in to just thin out any sort of heavy areas so we can move about a bit more as well. Like so. As much, I'm just picking it up with my fingers. I don't want to ruin that kind of texture we tried in. So I want to sort of finish this way. I'm breaking up this connection to the front, like so. And now last but not least, I'm just going to finish off with that fringe as well. Just going to slide it into that fringe a bit more as well. And just slightly. So, just above it, like so. Just down into the ends, whatever I feel like it needs to do. And slightly maybe. Slicing it around. Okay, that's it. Just pick Not that taper, if you can just see what you need something doing, just to give you a darker patches, you just pick along with it. The beauty of this texture here is that it hides, even when there's no product in it, because it's so straight and so thick, it hides the texture. It doesn't look choppy or like chunky or anything at all. You can see there's texture in it, but it doesn't look like you've just kind of cut chunks away, which we haven't done anyway. It's all structured, but if that was like say fine hair or curly hair, you'd see every single bit of texture you put in there. Not always in a good way. Right, so we've already dried in some of the Balmain texture salt spray. I'm actually going to use the Hans de Foucault claymation for this. I was going to use a powder, but I feel like I want something a bit heavier. I want to try and keep in as much of that kind of movement that I've dried in as well. So a little bit of clay, okay? I'm going to do, I'll show you how much to use. Using about a sort of fingertip size, okay? So roughly like a pea size amount, I always try and say, okay? Now, I'm going to wait this into the hands to warm it up. And I apply it in a sort of scrunch method. So more than just working it in like a shampoo like you normally would, I want to try and really break up the hair and have like as much, try and use that kind of inspiration that you showed me with the kind of movements in there and the kind of slight wave and curl that was in there. Obviously not going to curl, but we can try and create some wave. So I've warmed this up now. It's gone completely clear on the hands. And I'll start with the crown and I'll wear this in to the hair like this. Almost massage it into the hair, okay? And then just flatten down the fringe like that. And then I'm just going to bring it and tap it down like that. And then just twist the hair. Like so. So that clay is going to add the weight and I want for the hair to stay down. It's going to add a load of even more texture and bring out all that texture we've just put in there as well. I'm just going to keep twisting and scrunching like so, like that. That's really super messy. The Fringe kind of did its own thing. That's all for you, man. Happy, yeah? Yeah, it's cool on there, I really like that. All that texture. I mean, if you think about it, we didn't use a lot of texture. Well, we did. We used 3. But, I mean, I'd say the majority of that texture came from the section through the top. I think that's where we got a lot of that movement coming through. But also we got length removal, shape, and we also got texture in there as well. And then obviously the slide cut and the razor weight at the front really helped with that as well. And obviously keeping the weight in the corner to create more of a rounded finish, which makes it sit really sharp in the jawline. I think it's great. It's just another good alternative from having a too heavy undercut that might not grow out too well, which they all look quite heavily undercutted, which they're cool, you know, if you've got the hair type, but Jayden's hair is so straight, you just end up with loads of length and just random bits of length. So that's why I thought it was quite nice to do that. And that's it. Happy, yeah?
Thank you very much.
That's cool, man. Thanks very much, man.